Hi everyone. Hey, do you need some good news? I do. I have great news for you today. Now, we all know that we love to sew or we wouldn't do it. We want to learn or we wouldn't even try. You make a couple things, you get some success under your belt, and then you just want to take off. And that has happened to so many of us. But I'm here today to tell you about some surprising benefits of sewing that you might not know. I didn't know about these, and they're just too good not to share. So let's hear about the great benefits of sewing. Okay, so we are familiar with fast fashion. Fast fashion is cheap clothing manufactured in excess, in often appalling working conditions for the people who make the clothing. And fast fashion started its meteoric rise in the 1990s, early 2000s, and suddenly you could buy pants for $6, you could get a t-shirt for $4, and we just started buying clothing. Well, now a few years down the road, we can look back and see that there has been a cost to that. Environmental cost and a well-being cost. Nobody wants an overstuffed closet that overwhelms you when you open it and you don't really like anything in it anyway. So then this movement of slow fashion started to gain some traction for people who wanted to opt out of all the fast fashion and just be more mindful of their clothing choices. Slow fashion is great. There's a lot of benefits to it. It reduces waste. It reduces impulse buying. It has a better effect on the environment. And it raises awareness for people working in horrible factory conditions in third world countries that are making the clothing that a lot of us wear. So, in my opinion, sewing and slow fashion coexist nicely together. So I want to go over why is sewing so great, aside from the obvious of the joy of making your own clothes and creating something that nobody else is going to be wearing except you. And it's a vision that starts here, and you can lay it out on your sewing table and choose from all kinds of beautiful fabrics and patterns and make it come to life. You know, what's not to love, right? But I think you'll be surprised. Now, first we're going to talk about the brain. I did a little bit of research, and I will put my sources in the description box. So apparently the left-right dominant sides of the brain, that theory has been exaggerated, but we do know that the left side of the brain controls language, the right side of the brain controls emotion and sensation and intuition and analyzing. And then we know that there are very specific parts of the brain that hold our muscle movement and coordination. But here's the thing to take away. Any task is best performed when you're using both sides of your brain. And sewing is perfect for doing just that. Sewing is actually going to give you a healthier brain. Aside from that, I'm just going to go along and read these points that I thought were important. 1, sewing affords a lifetime of learning. Well, what's so great about that? Learning is so great. And sewing is just literally an inexhaustible well of learning. Even the pros, the most expert, can learn something new. And you can learn by watching other people and just seeing how they handle their machine and fabrics. I'm watching old episodes of The Great British Sewing Bee, and I'm in heaven. I just absolutely love it. Okay, so learning. Now, you know, I taught my children at home, and I was always saying to them, ABL, TFY, ABL, TFY. They got very tired of hearing those acronyms, but they stood for always be learning, think for yourself. So learning is fantastic. Sewing builds self-confidence. Okay, that sounds kind of trite on the surface, but consider this. It can also be called self-actualizing. And that means that you are doing something true to yourself. You are expressing yourself when you sew. And that releases dopamine in the brain, and it gives you a feeling of well-being. So it goes a lot deeper than just, hey, I made something, isn't this great? I mean, you are literally enhancing your brain chemistry when you sew and create. Okay, sewing improves focus. How fractured is our culture? We have stimuli coming at us from 1,000 different sources at any given time. Focus is very precious, and you have to focus when you sew. You concentrate on what you're doing, and you're concentrating on one thing that you're doing. Sewing is calming. Again, we're going to see that this affects our well-being overall. I read that sewing, and particularly knitting, there's kind of a rhythmic quality to it, and it has an effect on your body not unlike yoga or meditation. And so that's just win-win all the way around. Oh, and you'll love this. The blood pressure of the average sewist dropped 11 beats per minute, according to a study from the Home Sewing Association. Well, believe it or not, sewing aids physical ailments like insomnia, fatigue, back pain, even indigestion, because you're calm. Your brain is distracted from troubling thoughts, and this has an overall effect on your physical health. You can also decrease depression and anxiety when you sew. Why? Because you're doing something that you love doing. And it goes back to the brain chemistry, the release of dopamine, and those hormones that make you feel great, and all of that positive energy is just sort of released when you're concentrating on an activity that you love. Sewing helps us cope with stress. I mean, we are distracted from all of the trouble around us and all of the negative thoughts and maybe even negative circumstances. There's a little bit of haven with sewing. It's a respite, and it gives your mind a rest. Sewing improves patience. I guess I have a little bit of a ways to go here. I'm known to be a tad impatient when things don't go right with my sewing projects, but I can attest to the fact that I am getting more patient. I don't immediately fall apart if something is hard to understand or if I've sewn something the wrong way. It's just, okay, I'll deal with it. I'll find a solution. Sewing helps hand-eye coordination. Again, that's really good for your brain. I think I talked about, did I talk about sewing warding off dementia? Well, when you have to learn and remember small steps, you are keeping your mind very active. And an active, positive mind is a healthy brain. And it wards off dementia. Another thing about sewing that I love, you're not staring passively at a screen. You might have a screen on your sewing machine, some of you fancy embroidery people, and you're fantastic. But you're not staring passively at it. You are engaged. You are creating. And so finally, I love this one. Sewing puts us in touch with people who share our interest. And you know what? That's a great thing. Aside from building friendships, it's a form of connection, and it's a form of security, and of course it's pleasure. So all of those are great things. You know, when you are in the world and operating from a position of well-being and self-confidence, it's just going to give you an edge. There's no two ways about it. So there are probably more benefits that I haven't mentioned, but what do you think? Have you noticed improvements in your life since you began sewing? Well, let me know. Let's talk about it down below. Thank you for watching today. I'm wearing an old 1960s pattern and I tossed it because I had to do so many things to get this dress to fit. But I'll dig out the pattern number and I'll put it up on the screen for you. Thank you for being here today as always. I hope things are going well for you. And just think about all the benefits and all the favors that you are doing your mind, your body, vision, hands, getting up to iron, sitting back down, going to the serger. Hey, that's exercise, right? Have a great day, everybody, and I'll talk with you soon. Bye.